just bring my recording in. Okay. Now, so just to give you the so the Dainron, the core air and tampon, I guess in Shen, the margin of error and lawal adage, I guess confidence interval Shen extra muine. Okay, so see you. Okay, extra muine. You getting it, so no good to know. Right. So twice fair, so much as school leave free give our lows and okay there. And then when we free going example. Okay. Now if we convert the short time into that so we run with the capital reduction plus distribution with normal distribution curve. I guess what when we do just need that we can gauge the goal need. Usually 5% confidence interval, 10%, 15%, but because it's more than now, tell that we are leaving give the now it's always that 95% confidence interval. Okay? Right. So Mahashmit then you shot will you excuse good, huh? Yeah? Right, so Mahashmit. Now so just Abigail candidate called for presidential election and that we want to estimate as a percentage. For example, 45% or as a decimal 0.45 the level of support for candidate A. This measure is called the proportion. Okay? So Shin and core air and Kaplan. Okay? So these the measure is called the proportion of the population that supports candidate A. So in core air down age in red at that Katia down candidate A. Now, it is common practice to let the population proportion be denoted by the letter P. So notice that there is no standard deviation, as the proportion is just a single number. Okay, so you'll GL Kaijin Bio. Now suppose that we want to select a simple random sample of 200 voters and ask them which candidate they support for the upcoming election. So let the sample proportion who support candidate be denoted by P hat. Called P hat, right? So P hat has to be filled up bunch of hat about the P, right? Now, so checking should differ in the population proportion against sample proportion. So population proportion should P, should mean kind of ahan you need. Sample proportion, sample random sample, so should just none about that they need in some lovely samples, so should P hat. So it's a sample of the proportion, okay? Now. It is not reasonable to expect P hat to be exactly the same as P because of these need the because none about B, not because they're being repeated. But it is likely to be not too far away. So common sense tells us that increasing the size of the sample we take will increase the probability that P hat is close to P. Obviously, in small being equality gesture, is cogas you to be the actual probability card that we. Okay? Now, so now we can quantify our confidence that the proportion we get from our sample is close to the population proportion. So basically what the end is Abernethy group to get equal to King candidate A and B 45% B equal to what. So that's what we say Aberrun to survey half the yearly I guess the 45% B equal to both candidate A, right? Now this get equal to was from Caibidil, right? So then we do a quantity test keeping so we're the last sample random sample that's your P hat. With the last quantity test keeping it are you going to vote for candidate A or B? So it needs to get equal to one. Now obviously the keeping it was exactly 45%. Yeah. Well it'll be there but we go need to that obviously when it's got the small inequality test. So if you change that 200 to 2000, change that 2000 to 20,000, you get closer and closer to 45%. Does that make sense? You can get down in it, and there's your P hat, okay? Now, so the theory can show us as what we do is we'll do is to reach a confidence interval. I'd be 95% confident that 45% will vote for candidate. So you, it doesn't get you check out and show is your theory correct or is it incorrect? So you can do so. And that's usually the heat testing for holding it. So the Chodic. Now, so Chodic, when we take one sample of size 200 voters and calculate the proportion P hat, we are only finding the proportion from one of many samples of size 200. If we were to consider all such proportions, we would have a sampling distribution of the proportion. Now, you can show Shan. No, probably not, because you need an idea, right? Now, so basically what the top, right? Show the population proportion. So we'll just put a hand short of that one, right? So Malcolm say Abernash Galak was a sample that Yaki then I guess my giddy for them off. On average pay then to follow water. So image around the 40-45%. So image out of those 200 voters we have a 45%. So image that's your 50% margin, alright? Now Abernash Galak 200 samples Ella. And how many people voted for candidates? Have we grow 60%. And then we keep Cognac Kikesh, another 200, another 200, another 200. And we keep asking. And this is Jerry, more Cognac to Cognac Cashier, 200, 200, 200, say Abergro sample that 30, 200 people. And it's more harmfully in the League diagram. Jay to the goal Eka. So what you're going to see is Mohamed to start in the box in the league. Okay, I guess the straight to the goal like that is you're going to see a normal distribution. So near to n, ni small usually not 30. If it's greater or equal to 30, you usually will have a normal distribution curve. On the sample to leak n, and that's what that means. Do you get, does that make sense to you? So there's a lot near, not just one sample of 200 people, but multiple samples of 200 people. I just more contraction to the leak stress, typically that will turn into a normal distribution. Okay? Now, so when you go on chat, right? So American to a hojale dot the Ceacht. So it's in a chart, we just got to read the chart, right? So Raspberry, that's what was in page 41. Right, so the theme. So when we take one sample of size 200 voters and calculate the proportion we have, we are only finding the proportion from one of many samples of size 200. If we were to consider all such proportions, so that would near more rapid, we would have a sampling distribution of the proportion. Now, the sample distribution proportion, i.e. the distribution of all possible sample proportions for samples of the size m, same size, has the following properties. So the say shot or the add in the shot after shot. It is normally distributed. Just die hammer curve, but it's a normal distribution curve. Okay? It's mean written U which is P hat is P the true proportion of the population. So your mean of the sample proportion is the true proportion of the population. Mohammed chart every 3 inch can geokaijana a graph for size on sample. So your standard deviation will always depend on the size of the sample. So its standard deviation depends on the size of the samples. The larger the sample size, the smaller the standard deviation. So can you calculate the standard deviation when you be adding? It's how far away your values are from the mean. So how close your values are to the mean. Okay? So the greater the sample, for example, n is smaller than 30, it will be more accurate. You can do your standard deviation or with the GL Kaijin out wide is good. Now, the standard deviation for a sampling distribution of the proportion is called the standard error. So shinin average Kaijin. Okay? Now, so an added Kaijin at the dinner. And written symbol for the row, I think you can use their in the way. So row that he had for the standard deviation. Now the formula for the standard error of the proportion is given on page 34 of the formula in the lower table. So my clearly I'm going to try out the lower table 10 formulas in speeches yeah. Next was standard deviation that p hat equals square root of p by 1 minus p over n. Now, how we could have passed the instant question show are we monitoring some population date? Means a sample proportion can we try to swap up when you p hat. Okay, so can we try to p into formulas in the area when you p hat. But after we got reading the sample, it will understand the p, which is okay. Which obviously when the range and population proportion then we'll have to use the sample proportion and and hence we use p hat to find out the standard error. Okay? Now, where n is the size of the samples. So for example, what do 30 200 voter samples. These are written around. Okay? Now, where n is the size sample. So make this in population proportion, should p equal to the top, and it will be normally distributed la p minus e. Now using should e more when your standard error of the population proportion. Like it's least this should look like that. So thus if we know the true population proportion p, we can use either the empirical rule. That's we can go a real empira, so that's 68%, 90 ugly, 90 95%, I guess 99.7%. Okay? Now, so these have the Chino research or the standard normal tables. So Chino net will a higher level, which actually goes to the standard normal table. Okay? To estimate the probability that a particular sample proportion will lie within a certain distance of the population proportion. So the empirical rule only gives a rough guide, while the standard normal tables give a more accurate estimation. So there's in Garlua what is candidate. Okay? Now the approach used is to form an interval in which we can be C% sure. Now C means your confidence level. So make C big, that's your confidence interval. Okay? So it's an extra meaning. Now, so the approach used is to form an interval in which we can be C% sure that the true population proportion lies. C% is called the confidence level, and from the point of view of calculations, C is written as a decimal. So the most commonly used confidence interval is 95%. Now, I have screwed through that we call 95. We then one and it 19 is, so it is quite good to them. People 90, people 99, but 99% of the time it's 95%. Okay? Now, for the confidence level chosen, we can construct the interval in which the probability of a sample proportion line is C as a decimal. Now, the interval is called the C% confidence interval, e.g. a 95% confidence interval. So, soon see, because the whole class of recognition, right, having us go on this by calculations, double the mod the standard deviations and what, double the mod the margin of error, and then hope that right, well, because it lies within the margin of error, can man niha quick engage muinia, who Cara quick engage on payment, will hold packet that candidate. And that, or else to be, can man niha quick engage muinia, not what Cara quick engage the go to hold packet the candidate. And that's, so you cannot present this with the bony, either you lie within the interval or you're outside the interval and you're not 100% sure. Okay? Now, the interval is called C% confidence, and 9,000. The interval is centered on P, the population proportion. The distance from P to the edge of the interval is called the margin of error and denoted by capital E. The margin of error E will depend on C, P, and N. And we will see how to calculate this below. Once E has been calculated from the margin of error, the confidence interval is then P minus the margin of error, P plus the margin of error. Okay? So the practice. So calculation, so this is fine in theory, but in most cases we do not know the true population proportion. Like signify. You have to go out there and okay? So this is what we are trying to estimate. So we turn the argument on its head. Just as we can see that there is a probability of C that a sample proportion P hat lies in the interval P minus E to P plus E, we can also say that there is a probability of C that P, the population proportion, lies in the interval P hat minus E. We can use a couple of ones and we swap them. Just we can do P hat and then P plus branches in all the things that together. Okay? Now, so the problem is that because we do not know the value of P, we have to use P hat instead of P if we need to calculate the standard error of the proportion. So thus we have GL Kaizen the P hat equals and for the staff P hat in that. Now, so making sample he's shown as a margin of error approximation of 95%. Now just when they catch it in chat, Nial Pay Anarchy Shino Olo. Okay? The chain of the high school is just a formula we said. So he's the bond check to well, E more margin of error from 1 over square root n. I guess the medallion should P hat minus 1 over square root n, which is the margin of error for P plus 1 over square root of n. Now, suppose a sample of size n gives a proportion p hat for a certain characteristic. Then we can be 95% confident that the proportion for the whole population p lies within the margin of error of p hat. So the margin of error is given approximately as e equals 1 over square root n. So simply zero distribution equal and just get puzzle test. Right, so make this sample and that's a sample of the heat. Okay? So sample of the heat. A survey is conducted to see what proportion of soup buyers choose brand A of soup over all other brands. Now, a random sample of 600 shoppers to buy soup is taken and returned to proportion. If there is a rash correlated that starts equal to choose brand A. Now, so these real and the margin of error, so an added at a 95% level of confidence. So, soon you get looking at the margin of error. Now, we will use the approximate formula E equals 1 over square root n for the margin, unless asked to be more accurate. So that's a kind of an estimate, E equals 1 over square root n. How to really more accurate, how to go back to the formula back and jaw and you have to be more accurate, but at least try not reaching the ones. Right? Now, so thus the margin of error is 1 over square root she hid, because you test she hid. Chocolate I guess it is because it's 0.0408. Now, given the 95% confidence interval for the true proportion of soup buyers who choose brand A. So these produce the confidence interval, so it's P minus the margin of error, I guess P plus the margin of error. The percentage data we substitute that the population proportion lies between 28.9% and 47.08%. Now, what 95% confidence, what is the highest proportion of soup buyers who choose brand A? So these stats obviously 37.08%. The lowest would be 28.92%. But you don't think they just started both sides of the margin. So the margin of error could have been reduced by increasing the sample size. So how could the margin of error be reduced? Are there any implications of taking this action? So these could be reduced by increasing the sample size. Increase the sample size incurs extra costs, which might be considered disproportionate to the reduction of the margin of error. Okay. Now, sample launch and they cover backwards. A political party supports candidate in an election, but two candidates. Earlier polls indicate that voters are very evenly split between the two candidates. The political party wishes to conduct a random sample of votes to determine the level of support for the candidate to within 1%. Money is no object. What sample size should they take? At a 95% confidence interval. So these smoothie that you get here 1%, so 1 over square root n is going to equal a margin of error of 1%, which is 0.01, and then you just use the algebra to solve for n, and therefore the one price that's the whole you need opinion to have a margin of error of 1%. Okay, so a sample size of 10,000 would be required to obtain a margin of error of 1%. Okay, now the kid will go the initial him is regularly had partially, then we test the heat, I guess. Test the heat of the stock. Alright? So trial test the heat, or first the heat is 3, then the heat is 3 W. Okay? Now, so trial the hinch and head week extra junior sure. Was it the H1 E4 sample pip? H2? Yeah? H3? Ah, well, we room for improvement. Yeah.
Right. So when you show how to doing, go on the good side margin of error approximation e equals 1 over square root n. Okay, so my hash me jafla kestjevere we record that there. So my hash me jafla kestjevere heat. Okay, so there's a grow e cos my heat is square root n. So by an election, a random sample of 400 voters suggests that 38% will vote for candidate. What is the margin of error? So reached ten etrif arage okay, so ten etrif arage cosma heen is square root n, so to n cosma carry head voter. So reached Krishanisha or the calculator. So shin square root of carry head 1 over 20 be. So 1 over 20 which the cosma 0.05. Okay? Right, so shin the so reached the shin cosma quick from gate, so it's 5%. 0.05 is 5%. Okay? Right, so shin head part of the heat. And then you okay listen, Jinsin Kia? Yeah, right. Part of the dot. There's given that 95% confidence interval for the true portion of voters who intend to vote for candidate, so give the 95% confidence interval. Okay, so Niha quick from gate Muninia nabe, extra Muninia be. Alright, extra Muninia, so Niha 5 gate extra Muninia. So reached my head to Gujin, so to me call it answer to me call p hat because this is a sample proportion minus heenus square root n nisluna p hat plus heenus square root n. So reaching the interval. Okay, so reached Jim percentage of the doing to yes, there's suggest at 38%. So to me called Yemni pointed 3 art. So you can Yemni pointed 3 art, Luja Yemni pointed Yemni quick, nisluna p nisluna Yemni pointed 3 art plus Yemni pointed Yemni quick. So reached pointed Shinamart mid fall 0.33, nisluna p nisluna Yemni pointed keher at 3. So to me get 33 agus 43%. Okay, so i.e. other tra art van gate agus cara 3 van gate. So rud a dhéir tún sin a scóil to go le bhéh níthe quick van gate muine you'd be 95% confident goal na daoine to go le vota for your candidate go le bhéh other tra art agus cara 3 van gate. Was an okay again. Okay, right. Now, somebody goes to 1 over square root n. Now, so head part L and shin part C, the same sample indicates that the support for candidate B is 43%. Is there any possibility that the true proportion of voters which favours candidate A is greater than that which favours candidate B, and give a reason? Now, in sequential and shin 0 to 10, right? So there's the same sample indicates that the support for candidate B is at 43%. Is there any possibility that the true proportion of voters which favours candidate A is greater than that which favours candidate B? Give a reason. Now, mark this the candidate A to make 95% confident that the votes will be up to 43%. But at least this could be overestimated or underestimated. So it's to the question it's thereabouts, so it could be under or overestimated. So yes, hikla suggests the report for candidate is understated and the support for Candidate B is overstated. So the we can understate it, can overstate it, then Tasha, it's possible. Was an okay again. It is possible that there is true proportion which favours A is higher than that of favours B. Okay. So these just we can underestimate it, can a little overestimate it. Can Jarna, if in the by-election candidate A obtains 46% of the vote, suggest reasons why the random sample understated the proportion in favour of candidate A. So it is like there's a Gaudian polling station, but you could hash the candidate, then you have a change your mind. Like we're huglet at a went in change your mind, and therefore needs more than equal hurt both the B and A or so on. Okay. But you go the reason called heartless survey that grow to influence balala, and then you ended up changing your mind. So that's usually the right. Would you okay listen? I'm doing G kiss over the tree. So kiss over the tree. A large air transport company wants to change its pricing structure, but is afraid of losing business to its competitors if it does. It needs to have customer support of at least 70% to introduce its new structure. So a sample of its customers is to be taken, but cannot have a margin of error of greater than 2%. Okay, so what size of sample should be taken so that the margin of error is 2%? So in the question is to make another go backwards. So margin of error E, cosma hin is going to play here in the N, which is the cosma 0.02, which is your 2%. Okay, so the square root N, cosma hin is going to give punch in the da. So these can do majority the square root, square both sides. So to N, cosma hin is going to give punch in the da carne here, and then just question the shine the calculator. So you have to figure that yeah, we look quick. So in a sample size a high should, in a sample size a high to lock it. Yeah, we look quick. Which is okay again. Okay. Now, part of the dot. If the response from the sample is 68% favourable, do you think the company would feel confident implementing the new structure? Give a reason. So would they be confident? Yes or no, Keaton? No. Yeah. And they're only getting 68. Now it could be understated, but I wouldn't be confident. If you need 70% or more, and then you're ending up just you're 95% confident you get 68. Rahansela no. Because Lindsay says that they're 75 and be overestimated rather than underestimated. You can take because they could get 68% and then Kylie should customer each. You can check. So these in the fragrance I would not feel. Definitely would not feel comfortable. Okay. You know, lock of percentage are pianta more good when you understated. Right. Part of the tree. If the company wants to conduct a new survey with a margin of error of 1%, how much larger would the sample it takes have to be? So Jacob Moore Hahin sample of it. So the rest when you part of the hin, part of the door no, yeah, that is part of the tree to the quarter e cosma 1 over square root n cosma 0.01. So this the square root n cosma hin is going to have punch in hin. So the n cosma square that's it, which is the cosma j mila then. Okay. Right. Trilegi kist quick inchen 5 minutes if we require a margin error of x% for sample size n express n in terms of x. Yeah, trilegi hin kist quick inchen and us just get the me today. if we require a margin of error. So that means to equal to e cosma 1 over square root n, which is the cosma x percent. Okay. Sin då gäller higgling x percent skriv. X is gun. Or 0.01x or x is gun Kate. So he gets 3 equal 1 over square root n cosma x is gun Kate. Okay. So it is, if we cross multiply, the square root n midi for x cosma Kate express n in terms of s, so we equal to n equals. Okay, so the square root n cosma k is can x, so the n cosma j mile is can x squared. Right, then she Ceacht and then my free j live and the technique just in she Ceacht and then remedy re canala. So when you she to n cosma mille no n cosma 4,000. We get the upper margin definitely the reverse. Correct to 2 decimal place 0 point or 3 decimal place 0.032. Canada. And points in the Ceacht to heat. So the ball o 3 pointed dolphin gate. Could you point to Ceacht to heat from gate. So 3 pointed dot minus 9 points in the Ceacht to heat. How you should to add how dot 3 pointed heat 3 from gate. No, this is cat ball. No, 0.71 combination. 2.49%. Just Ceacht is no E and then when we GJ. Okay. So get your Ceacht press this forward if the margin of error is 4.5%. So the E cosma henish can square root n, which the cosma k punch a quick from gate. So this should the henish can square root n, cosma he k punch a quick, which can the kid. So these cross multiply is the goal of a 4.5 square root n cosma kid square root n cosma kid is can k punch a quick. So to n codrma j míle is going to have punch a quick carny. So if you carry heat, we have 3 punch r to 3. So reached back I carry heat, ni ha care. Round up. Would you okay, listen? Yeah, can you go? Well, my goal roll gas today? No, no, right. J, or question E, and then in with J. Right, so question E, a sample size x gives a margin of error of n%. Expressed in terms of the margin of error of the sample of size 4x. So, must meet this solution as to 1 over square root n codrma. So if the sample of x, so the x is your sample, so 1 over square root of x codrma n%. So the giddy full of ma medinian sample x kid x. Yeah. Jeta n gullive codrmas. So you have 1 over square root x codrma n is going to kate. Okay. Now sample x. Okay. Now my here medinian is when you sample size jeta sample size l care x. So jeta gullive open. So the ratio to 1 over square root 4x. Jeta sin gullive codrma. Now the ratio square root the care x sin 2 square root x. Because square root the care sin da, so sin roi kernel 1 over square root x midi for da. Was you okay, listen? So we reached task equal 1 over square root x codrma n is going to kate. So we reached task with this question codrma in this game it's hin le midi for n is going to kate. This codrma n is going to kate. Was an okay again, so he's just 0.5%. So it is this in codrma le midi for n is going to kate, which is equal to 0.5% n, half n%. So it becomes le. Right, so to me call this good G Panel just G hockey me help back is remedy will fall you can tell how good G said scores. Or he gets out a video better. Right. What's in again on you? No good then you get a bomb chiller. So good, right. Right, so my okay kiss to J estimate is actually going to lose just sample proportion size and that's not them 1 over square root 10. Okay. Now so kiss to J. So in the following question, the margin of error should be found by using the formula for the standard error of proportion and said tables, standard normal tables. Okay. Now, so a survey of 800 customers, so the n customer R8, okay, indicates that 38% of those intend to buy a new brand of dairy spread. So find the 95% confidence interval for the true proportion of customers that intend to use the new brand. Okay. So tash off here do we testing equal p hat. Sample proportion to R8 testing equal p hat codrma traha art from gate. So you have 0.3 art. Okay. Now, testing next question. So next time we go to say GL kaijina that p hat codrma square root reached linus ja. So reached to the fall p hat made if a hin minus p hat is gone n. So linus ja formula sin so you have to square root then nemni punch 3 art for heen minus nemni punch 3 art a leakish can art yet. And then just question the shandy calculator. Okay, so you have to square root the fraction nemni punch 3 art midi for heen minus nemni punch 3 art bracket around art yet. As you have to figure it, then nemni punch nemni heen shard. Heen she heen. Okay. So it reached. Now, come with 95% confidence. Now, just listen to extra mudinya. Nu ha quick van gate. So ten set score that nu ha quick van gate cosmic g. So my intestinal g the lower tably. Okay. So my intestinal g the lower tably. Go g le hana quick kin le na vision. Set scores. I guess QWERTY 95%. I guess you to Arkansas. So to 95% of the 1.95, I guess 0.96. So it's a nice cogra half function. Was it okay? No, fun. Which is more attention. It should be more 95%. 1.6, it should be 1 point. TV mention. Oh, is it this camera check and shot? .96. Oh, 2 minutes, right. So, just flashing the VNUD, right? I mean, this is back G. Catch one off at 1.96, right? Now, mate, this is back with the normal distribution, right? So, mate, this is good, right? Okay, so that's equal to 95%. So, can you come near balance in 50%? Okay, so these come within your hot Siskagi, punches on shaw Siskagi 45%, and Siskagi 95%. So could you fake in the region shin. So the 95% go with the scale to the goal to the region leak at the reverse. So the 2.25% goal of fake in shin or 0.025 go with the scale 0.025. I guess the 0.025 in shin. So shin the quick from gate. So the question 95% normally distributed in the region. So the Katu 2.5% qualified is the region, I guess the 2.5% qualified is the region. Now it is the question 95%, so the question region shall leak. So shin the set score, shin the minus the set score and shin. So come then you also squeegee 0.025. Now my locket is the shin. So to the goal P bracket, I guess the raise to the goal minus the set, ni sluna codumla is said more, is Luna Cosma set. Okay, now similar to Midquartu is the Shinlave 0.95. Okay, so for only later to us, Tasquin la 95% Kaimich plus 0.025 or less. Okay, so it is to Midquartu 95%, so to Midgalo Shin all the way plus the 0.025 Kaimich or less. Okay, so it is equal probability that said score ni sluna cosma set to shin cosma 0.95 plus 0.025, which the cosma 0.975. Now my hint is to go the lower tably 0.975 chafatu gwalcha and shot. Right and shot in the lower tably for 1.96. So marketu or the lower tably heen punching the non-goji 0.975, which was like 0.06 plus 1.9, so 1.96. So Sinet you just said scored that 1.96. Okay, now to the cleaning question, so reached task good goal said Galway Cosma 1.9. The said Galway Cosma 1.96 on your tablet. Okay, now we need to back a gene question, so your error, standard error is equal to. So reach Connie Covenant Shin. It's 95%, so your said score is 1.96. Okay, so they got 1.66 midifá agus Jane standard error for 0.0172 Jeremy. So midifá 0.0172. Okay, so we did the margin of error. So question is on the calculator 1.96 midifá 0.0172 issue with frigre dot 0.033712. Okay. Now, as the Shinogin, Higlinish a 95% confidence interval of screw sheets. So to make top of yes, we make 38%, just getting out gaste. So your interval, so to etrif, Kodjumla, it reached you to Konikavni at 0.38 minus 0.0337. Nisluna P, Nisluna 0.38 plus 0.0337. Okay, and then just summation stress. So it is Ronchina Martian, so 0.38 minus 0.0337, I guess you to 0.3463. Nisluna P, Nisluna, I guess it is 0.38 plus 0.0337. I guess the ratio to 0.4137. So you'd be 95% confident. While the percentage error got to be 35%, Nisluna P, Nisluna 41%. Rather 35 because 41. Okay.